In this video, I'll teach you about 3 secrets to reversing your IBS without drugs or surgery, but also without avoiding our great Cajun food, even if you feel like you've tried everything. This video is for those folks who are willing to do something outside of the normal system to get better. But why wouldn't you? If you have IBS, you may feel like the current system has already failed you and being able to completely reverse your IBS. If you feel like it's time to try a new approach, a better approach, then keep watching. These 3 secrets only work if you're willing to spend the time necessary to follow a program to solve your health issues. No one has a magic wand. You must be willing to invest some time and some effort in your health. These 3 secrets are also only for those that are willing to invest financially in their health and aren't only relying on your insurance company to bail you out. The hard truth is, your insurance company will never do everything you need to do to solve your IBS and reach your highest level of health. Unfortunately, that's just not the way it works. So if that makes sense to you and you're serious about finally solving your IBS, then stay tuned. And I understand this video is not going to be for everyone, and that's okay. It's not for those that are merely looking for a quick fix or a patch-up job, because cutting corners is never going to solve this for you. There is no silver bullet to solving something as complicated as IBS. So let me be clear. If you want to get a different result with your IBS, you have to do something different in your approach to treatment. You can't keep relying on the same old medical system doing the same things and expect a better result. So if none of that made sense to you, then this video might not be for you. But if it did make sense, then welcome to what could be one of the most important videos to your future health. Imagine what your life would be like if you found freedom from your IBS once and for all. Imagine not having to constantly know where the bathroom is everywhere you go if you have IBS-D. What if you could attend a family reunion or a crawfish boil without the embarrassment of your IBS? What if you could enjoy our great Acadiana food without the bloating and pain that comes with the irregularity if you have IBS-C? What if you had no worries about intimacy or closeness with your partner because your IBS was permanently resolved? What if you could finally take back the things IBS has taken from you? Well, let me start by saying I'm glad that you're here, because by the end of this video, I will teach you the new science about why IBS occurs in the body. I'll also go over what most doctors miss in the evaluation of a patient with IBS. And I'll also show you the new testing that we do at my clinic that can find the hidden causes of why IBS has occurred in the first place. And then finally, we'll go over natural ways to resolve your IBS once and for all while avoiding the drugs and dangerous surgeries to remove a portion of your colon. And I'm not trying to sell you the latest supplement or the latest fad to patch up your IBS. In fact, I'm not trying to sell you anything. So if that makes sense to you, at the end of this video, I will tell you what your next steps are so that you can finally take action to solve the reasons you have IBS. Does this sound like you? Do you feel like you can't eat anything without suffering? Are you done taking drugs to cover up symptoms only to get mixed results at best? Has all of this left you physically and emotionally drained and like you're a prisoner to your IBS? Does any of this sound like you? Then I have some awesome news for you. There is a new way to get results with your IBS right here in South Louisiana. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Dr. Kevin Linderman. My practice is in Lafayette, Louisiana. It's called Dr. Kevin's Wellness Clinic. I'm also the host of Get Well Acadiana with Dr. Kevin on 96.5 KPEL, and I frequently appear as a guest on CJ and Ellen's morning talk show on KTDY. My number one passion in life, of course, is to be a great dad. This is my son, Creed. He's 11, and yes, I got started a little late, so don't judge me. My number one passion, of course, is to be a great dad for him. But my number two passion, the reason I get up every day, is to help Acadiana reach a higher level of health without drugs or surgery. This month will mark my 25th year in practice, and for the last decade of that, I have been on a mission to figure out the underlying reasons why so many people have a destroyed digestive system in Acadiana. The bottom line is that we are stuck in an old, outdated system that does very little to resolve these complicated health problems. There is now a new way of treating these chronic conditions like IBS with the goal of solving them instead of patching them up. So let me show you the new way. Are you ready? Let's get started. I'm going to show you 3 secrets to IBS freedom. And the problem with the old system, it's designed to just evaluate and treat the symptoms. You have diarrhea? Take this. You have constipation? Take this. Oh, you have both? Take both. And not only that, the treatment of the symptoms doesn't even work that well to begin with. And they won't usually last long, and then the symptoms return. This is like having a leaky roof, and the big solution is to put a bucket under the drips in your living room. It just doesn't make long-term sense to do it that way. Patching up symptoms will never be a good solution and get you feeling like you deserve. This leaves patients feeling like they carry the load of their IBS all alone. Many times their family members don't understand the degree of suffering that occurs and the feeling of despair that having IBS and no one understanding can cause. But with the new way and the new science looking at IBS, we want to take a look at the entire digestive system as a whole so patients can return to their great way of life, have the freedom to enjoy festivals and cookouts and our great Cajun culture. So ask yourself, is it possible? What if this doctor does have the answers I've been searching for this whole time? So let's take a look and discuss some of the secrets that traditional system has ignored and the way that we've solved hundreds of IBS cases right here in South Louisiana using a different approach. So the first secret to solving IBS for good is what we call a macro view of your digestive system. And that means we look at the whole digestive system as a whole. Doctors have to stop looking at reducing symptoms as the answer to everything. And look, it's not your doctor's fault. They're good people. They want to help. But so often the system is set up to look for symptoms only. They have to code the symptom in their computer to properly code insurance payments. Doctors are stuck in this system that looks at healthcare as, I have stomach pain in room 1. What is the insurance code for stomach pain so that I can properly bill this? I have knee pain in room 2. Let me make sure I code that correctly for knee pain. The human body is way too complex for that to solve problems. You are more than the sum of your symptoms. And symptoms don't tell you why the body has developed a disease. So yes, you are more than the sum of your symptoms, and especially whenever it comes to the digestive system, which is all about balance. The reason that it's called a digestive system is because all of the parts are connected and all have certain jobs to do. The digestion of your food actually begins in your saliva. And you have enzymes in your saliva that begins to do things to your food that are critically important. And then when that food moves into your stomach has a very important job to do that gets that food ready to go into your small intestine. And then the small intestine has certain things that it needs to prepare for proper function for that food to go into your colon. So the health of your large intestine is dependent on your whole system doing its job correctly. That's why it's called a system. And so whenever I say that we have to look at your digestive system as a whole, and you can't isolate a colon problem to look at the colon, that's what I mean. You have to look at the whole digestive system. We have to look at your stomach acid, the enzymes, the balance of your microbiome. Your microbiome is the balance of bacteria that's in your digestive tract. We have to look at the peristaltic wave that pushes that food down and several other things. And frankly, if you're going to see why the system is broken down, that's the first big secret to IBS. And I get that leaves patients with the thought of, well, why didn't my regular doctor look at any of this? And honestly, it's not that they're bad doctors. It's just that they're not trained to do it this way. The current healthcare system where you have insurance companies cutting your rates, the name of the game in healthcare today is volume and speed. They need a clinic full of patients waiting on them. They need to be in and out of the room in 3 to 5 minutes, and they need to diagnose, prescribe, and move on to the next patient. Because insurance rates are cutting fees, that's the only way to make it work. Now, mistakenly, people think that doctors are making all this money today. Maybe in the 1980s, but in 2022, by the time they pay their student loans, their malpractice insurance, and a huge staff to keep up with all this insurance billing paperwork, many of them are barely getting by. They don't have the time to sit down with a patient and pour into all of the details that created your chronic disease, and especially to do that with each patient. The system that we have created in American healthcare is third-party pay, insurance billing, high volume of patients, in and out of the room in 3 to 5 minutes, diagnose, prescribe, go to the next one. Because their rates get cut. Doctors simply can't spend the time to investigate all of the details on each case to give you the best care possible. And I know that that's unfortunate, but I'm a straight shooting guy, and that's the truth. But the terrible part of this is this leaves patients feeling confused and so frustrated and really hopeless. And that has left us with chronic conditions like IBS and thousands of patients out there looking for a better answer. And that's why my practice is set up completely different. The model and approach that we use is different than the current system that's failing so many of our great folks here in Acadiana. We do what we call gastric mapping to determine the entire digestive system's function and balance using our gastric mapping lab. And that is a multi-page study where it can map out each phase of the digestive system and its functions using several new technologies, including DNA testing. And guys, you can't figure all this out in 3 to 5 minutes. I usually spend between 3 to 5 hours with each patient before I sit down with them and develop a strategy to resolve their IBS. And there are a lot of details to dig into and look at all of the aspects of your digestive story and history. We have to zoom out and look at the whole story of your digestive life if we ever expect to get a complete picture. We have the luxury and the privilege to sit down with our patients and do just that, to figure out the why. We aren't part of that system that forces doctors to rush them in and out. I work directly for my patients, not for Blue Cross, not for United Healthcare or Medicaid. I work directly for my patients so we can get some real answers to why IBS and inflammation has occurred. The why to pain. Where are these things coming from? And what do we need to do to get as far upstream as possible to solve these problems once and for all? You deserve more than 5 minutes and a label. Now, after we map out the entire digestive system, we put a comprehensive strategy together to resolve all of the problems that we found. We must look at the digestive enzymes. We have to look at the stomach acid, the gallbladder fluid, which is critical. If they've already taken your gallbladder, which, guys, they'll pull a gallbladder out at the drop of a hat these days. And if that's you, we have something that can help your body be more normal and reproduce the gall fluid that your missing gallbladder is no longer able to do. Then we must look at the small intestine in addition to the colon. So guys, there's a lot to look into, but we first must map everything out so nothing gets missed. We can map out your entire digestive health, and then we can fix all of the parts for good and stop relying on just patching up ever worsening symptoms. And that leads me to secret number 2, which is the toxic chemistry inside the body. We have to stop relying on pills to cover up symptoms. The definition of a symptom is a sign your body sends you telling you something is wrong. So it's not what's wrong, it's telling you something is wrong. So symptoms are kind of like your check engine light on your car, telling you something is wrong. So imagine if the check engine light came on your car and you pulled over, you took it to the mechanic, and he looked at it and put tape over the light and charged you $200. Would you be okay with that? Would you pay for that? Would you pay him? So what if it was the only car you could ever have? Would you do that to your car? So why do we do that to our bodies? You can't trade your body in. So treating symptoms is never going to get to the underlying reasons why you have IBS. And if you ever want to truly solve this, you have to do more than treat ever worsening symptoms with ever stronger drugs. And then in the worst case scenario, something that I see happen way too often is if you simply cover up symptoms long enough, then your colon gets destroyed enough and there's no turning back, and it could even lead to having your colon removed, which is not pleasant. So stop depending on ineffective treatments, because this leaves you fed up and drained and exhausted. We must get to the source of the irritation and inflammation. Guys, listen, the I in IBS stands for irritable. So shouldn't a doctor at some point attempt to find out what's irritating it? I mean, that just seems like common sense to me. We have to find the source of the irritation and inflammation, because they don't just happen for no reason. You don't have IBS because you're just unlucky. The average American eats 14 pounds of chemicals and toxins per year. Many patients are also loaded up with heavy metals such as lead and mercury. Plastics and food additives can also destroy the digestive system. So we do a program called ionic detoxification to remove these substances in a very gentle way. And you won't have to miss work or run to the bathroom like people think and people imagine whenever we talk about cleansing. That's not the point. So you must clear the source of the inflammation, and we can now do that without invasive protocols and without any side effects. Secret number 3 to solving your IBS is that we use a multi-pronged approach. You must move away from using only one approach to your IBS. The human body is just too complicated for that, leaving people wondering, what am I doing wrong? Why is nothing working for me? And that leaves them feeling powerless, resigned to just suffer, and worst of all, hopeless. hopeless that they'll ever be able to enjoy long hikes or day trips out of the house or even dinner at nice restaurants. The new way of treating IBS is that we approach IBS from 5 possible angles simultaneously. And I want you guys to understand, we don't have to hit a home run here. The American medical thinking is that we have to find this one big secret, this one problem that's causing IBS. It doesn't usually happen that way. Usually there are multiple things going on that's added up causing your IBS. If I do 5 things and each one helps you 20%, what percentage better are you? That's right, you're 100% better. We don't have to hit a home run. I don't have to find the big secret. I just have to do 5 of the most common sense things that's going to resolve your IBS, and we try to get 20% results out of each one of those. Now, I can't tell you your 5 most important aspects until I really evaluate your specific issue, but I can tell you what the 5 most common aspects that we deal with in IBS are. Yours may be slightly different depending on what we find when we evaluate you. But the 5 most common issues affecting most people with IBS that we treat are: number 1, the body's negative response to stress. A severe imbalance of your gut microbiome. Your microbiome is everything living in your digestive tract. All of the bacteria, viruses, yeasts, fungus, parasites, the good bacteria, the bad bacteria, all of that ecosystem, that whole world of your colon bacteria is known as your microbiome. Believe it or not, you actually have more bacteria cells in your body than you have human cells. It's said that some people may have up to 5 pounds of bacteria in their body. And these bacteria help you if they're the right ones, and they do not help you if they're the wrong ones. But when we say microbiome, that's what we mean. Number 3, most common thing is being in energetic debt, and I will explain more on that in a second. Number 4 is low stomach acid. And number 5 is something we call stealth infections. So I'm going to get into these in a little bit more detail, but just know that I could talk for an hour on each one of those 5, but I won't. You don't have to fully understand all of this now. I'm just going to cover some highlights. And if I find that you suffer with any of these, I'm going to sit down with you one-on-one and give you a full description of how this is affecting your health. But what we can do now is go through the highlights of each one. So this is an overview. You don't have to fully understand all of the details of this now, but we must first look at the body's response to stress. So if you back us up to the hunter-gatherer days, our body had a defense mechanism of being attacked called fight or flight response. Now, during times of fight or flight response, our body would go through several physical changes to make us a better fighter or a better runner so that we could get away from danger and we could continue to live. But the problem is this stressful event was designed to be very short term. So we're on the prairie, we're eating berries, all of a sudden we're picking roots. All of a sudden a saber-toothed tiger chases us. Within a minute or 2, that's going to be all over. We either get away and our body developed a mechanism to help us get away, or we aren't going to get away and we're going to turn around and we're going to fight for our life. And our body helps us with that by going through these mechanisms. But either way, this is going to be a couple of minutes long, and the fight or flight your body will go through, there are actually over 50 changes, but I'm going to tell you the top 4. Number 1 is when I'm in fight or flight, my blood pressure goes up. I need a lot of blood pressure in my body because I'm either going to fight or I'm going to run. The second thing my body does is it's going to move the blood from my digestive system and my colon, and it's going to take that blood and move it to my arms and legs. That way I can fight better or I can run better. I'm not going to spend energy digesting my lunch. That can wait. I need that blood in my arms and legs. Now, the third thing that happens under stress response is my sleep hormones are not going to work correctly. You're not going to be running from someone, breaking into your house, and then all of a sudden get sleepy. It doesn't work that way. Your sleep hormones get destroyed. So think about this. If you think somebody's breaking into your house tonight, you're about to go to bed and you hear your front door glass break open. So you call the police from your bedroom and the police come and check it out, and it turns out your dog just knocked over a lamp. It wasn't someone breaking into your house at all. Are you going to go back to sleep right away? You're not. You're going to be like this. And then the fourth most common thing that happens in your body's reaction to stress is your cortisol level spikes. Now, when your cortisol level spikes, that makes your muscles tense up. That affects your blood sugar because you need a lot of blood sugar to fight or run. And several of your other hormones get changed as well. But cortisol overproduction also becomes a weight storing hormone. You get anxious, you get tense, you gain weight for no reason whatsoever. The problem here is this: we don't live in hunter-gatherer days any longer. Today, our stress is all day, every day, and the problem is your body physically responds the same. The stress response to the body doesn't know the difference between being stuck in traffic and late for an appointment or being chased by a saber-toothed tiger. Now, the degree is obviously different, but the physiology is exactly the same. We have the traffic, the bills, the workplace stresses, the kids in school, the loneliness, the anxiety, the money problems, the spouse even stresses us out sometimes. And so we have all of these life stresses. We have these modern stresses that cause us to be in a constant state of fight or flight response from the time we wake up and drink our coffee to get going, right up until the time we have to take something to help us pass out at night. Our bodies are stuck in this fight or flight response. Now, there's nothing I can do about life stresses, the traffic, the bills. But what we can do is we can rebuild the stress system of the body so that the stress will be at arm's length. You won't go into these physiological changes that your body is doing right now. Your body will be more resilient to life's stresses. But you can understand now why the stress response has to be addressed if we're ever going to restore your health. Think about the blood pressure problems, the digestive issues, and how being in a constant state of stress destroys your normal digestive function because your body moves that blood into your arms and legs and out of your digestive system. And then all the sleep problems that comes along with it, and the inflammatory diseases and the weight gain and the blood sugar imbalances and hormonal imbalances that come with overproduction of cortisol. 80% of all doctors' visits are from this stress-related problem. You are 400 to 500% more likely to have a heart attack if you have chronic stress happening in the body. Get this, 9 out of 10 of our patients that we test positive for this. 9 out of 10 of you. So why don't most doctors test for this? Well, I think really for 2 reasons. First is they don't have the technology to look at the degree of stress response in the body. They don't have the technology to check it. And secondly, there's really nothing they have in modern medicine that can do anything about it anyway. We utilize a computerized instrument called heart rate variability that can give us a graphic readout of the degree at which your body's nervous system is locked into fight or flight. And then we talk about this with patients, most of them laughing. They go, yeah, I'm going to peg that machine out. I'm completely locked in fight or flight. I'm totally stressed out. So patients know this is going on, but they didn't know what to do about it. But the important thing about heart rate variability is it gives us a baseline of where you're at. So as we begin to get you more and more out of fight or flight, as the physical changes happening in your body starts to improve, it gives us data to know where you started and how we're improving your body through solving this fight or flight response. And as far as IBS, balancing the stress response to help your digestive system normalize is very important. Okay, so that was number one that we deal with. One of the most common things we deal with the body's response to IBS is stress. Number two on the list, and remember, these are 5 things we have to do with most IBS patients. Yours may be a little bit different. Number 1 was stress. Number 2 on the list is to balance your gut microbiome. You have hundreds of different strains of healthy bacteria that are supposed to live in your digestive tract. And each one of these strains of bacteria has a certain job to do. One strain may digest carbohydrates. The other may digest proteins. Another strain may help you absorb water. Another strain may release healthy proteins or enzymes. We have all of these different strains of healthy bacteria that release things that are critical to proper digestion. That's why they help us, because of what they release. But there's also unhealthy strains, and they release toxins that make us sick, chemicals that give you brain fog, yeast that makes you gain weight. Some of them even release sulfur gas. And there are some really bad strains of bacteria that, well, they may actually kill you. And the way I want you to think of your microbiome, it's the relationship of all these bacteria, is that there's a really small war going on inside your digestive tract. You have the good guys and you have the bad guys. And we want to know how many of each there are and how to support the good guys and how to get rid of the bad guys. And I want you guys to know right now that taking handfuls of probiotics is not going to work. New research proves that the overuse of probiotics can still throw off the balance of your microbiome. And so these probiotics may help short term. They may help you feel better in the short term, but they can make you worse in the long term. And so you're supposed to have 100 different strains of these good guys in order to have a healthy microbiome. But your probiotics are maybe 11, 14 at the most. So if I start cramming 11 strains day after day after day in my colon, it's still not proper balance. And it can still create imbalance, even if they're the good ones. So imagine if we had a war going on and I was the Army. Armies need lots of support staff. You need medics, you need truck drivers, you need the frontline guys doing the fighting, you need the generals in the back planning out where the guys are going to fight. There's a lot that goes into a war, a lot of different jobs to do. So if I had a war going on with my army and I just kept sending 10,000 truck drivers to the front line every day, just keep sending 10,000 truck drivers, we wouldn't do very well. That's what probiotics are to the colon. Those truck drivers might do a little bit of good, but it's not going to be a balanced army. It's not going to be effective in the long run. So we work with a lab that has new technology where we can DNA test all of the strains of bacteria that you have in your entire digestive tract. And what do I mean by this? So the old way of doing bacteria testing in the medical field was they would do what's called a culture. And if they even did decide to test them, which they almost never do, but they would do a culture, which means they would take a sample of these bacteria and they would put them in a dish and they would grow them in an incubator in a lab. And then a couple of days later, they would look at it under a microscope to see what bacteria they had. New research shows that that can miss 70% of what's actually growing in your digestive tract. So even if they did the culture, which they almost never did, they're missing 70% of what's there. Now I can DNA test and get a comprehensive report of every bacteria you have in your digestive tract. The live ones, the dead ones, it picks up the genus and species. So I'm not talking about DNA testing you. I'm talking about DNA testing the bacteria. There are several different species of E. coli strains. A couple of them are totally harmless. A couple of them can literally kill you. So if I just culture you and say you have E. coli, that could either be really bad or it could be totally fine. Now with this new technology, I can get this multi-page report that shows every bacteria, the good ones, the bad ones, the parasites, the yeasts, protozoas, amoebas, all of your digestive enzymes, and we get a very comprehensive report for everything that you're dealing with in your microbiome. And then we decide how to get more good ones and how to have less bad ones. And that really just depends on what you're dealing with individually. But we can finally, once and for all, get balance to your microbiome. So remember, number one was stress and the destructive effect it has on your body. And number two is balancing your gut microbiome. Now, the third part of our multi-pronged approach to treating IBS is solving something called energetic debt. And that means that your body is spending energy faster than it's making it. So for you to be healthy, your body has to be able to take in more energy than it needs to run all of its systems. Think about it like your bank account. In your bank account, you have to deposit more money into your account than you are spending out of that account. And as long as you do that, your bank account is healthy. But if you start spending more than you are putting in your account, then you are spending in debt. And that is exactly how your body runs its energy reserves. It's important that you're taking in more energy into your body than you are spending out to run all of your systems. You need an energy abundance to run all of your systems and your functions. Just like you have to put more gas in your car than you burn out of your car, or more money in your bank account than you spend out of it. Your body simply must take in and reserve more energy than you need to run all of your systems. Now, the energy molecule in your body is called ATP, which stands for adenosine triphosphate. Now, I had to learn all of that in school. You guys don't need to know that. But ATP is to your body what dollars are to your bank account. You have to take in and absorb more ATP than you are using. But with energetic debt, most people aren't producing enough energy. It's kind of like paying your bills. If money is tight and you have to make some sacrifice, you might pay the rent but not the cable, because cable TV is kind of a luxury. Paying the rent is not. Your body will do this as well. It will say heart and lungs, give that some energy. Hormones, can't do it. Having babies is not on my priority list. Brain, don't really run that. We don't have enough to run that right. Digestion, we'll deal with that later. I have to pay heart and lungs, and that's all I have available. So your body will literally pick and choose where it spends its limited ATP on. And your digestive system will get sacrificed because your body knows you can go 3 weeks without really any food to digest. You can go 2 minutes without heart and blood working. So your body is designed for survival. It will pick keeping you alive over digesting your lunch every time. So in energetic debt, that means that you're burning energy faster than you are making it. And why is this happening? Because our bodies are dealing with more than ever before in the history of human beings. We are spending more energy faster than ever, and we're not making it as good as we used to either. So let me just ask you, do you ever feel like your body is burning energy faster than it's making it? Do you ever feel like you're out of energy quicker than you should be? If that's you, if you've ever looked at your kid running around and said, man, I wish I had half of their energy. Because the reason that happens is you have a lifetime of damage and stuff that's happened to your body that it's dealing with that haven't had. So dealing with your body, getting back into an energy reserve has to be part of the solution with IBS, especially with digestive problems. Because as long as you stay in energetic debt, your body will not repair or heal or run your digestive system. Your body is in survival mode. It's in crisis mode. And you can't be in crisis mode and healing mode at the same time. I see this very often also in people with weight problems. So if you're in energetic debt, you don't have a chance of losing weight. Because of the energy deficit, your body has slowed down your metabolism so much because of this energetic debt, there's no way that you can ever get to weight loss. So some doctor somewhere or some TV commercial somewhere tells you, oh, well, you just need to go exercise. If you're in energetic debt, that would be like if your gas tank in your car is almost empty and I jump in your passenger seat and say, let's go drive to Texas without filling up. We're not stopping for fuel. You don't have the energy to get to Texas. So when you're talking to someone who's in energetic debt, who's fatigued, who can barely get through the day, and you're telling them to go exercise, you're telling them to burn energy that they don't have yet. Trying to lose weight, trying to up the metabolism that they don't have, trying to fix their digestive system when the body's not prioritizing the digestive system is not going to work. You have to fix the energy crisis, the energetic debt in the body first. Before you restore the digestive system, you have to fix the metabolism. So hang in there, guys. We're on number 4. Number 4 on the list, and this is going to blow you away, but number 4 on the list of commonalities with IBS is low stomach acid. Now, for the last 40 years, every third commercial on television was to tell us that we have overactive stomach pumps and our stomach acid is just out of control and we need all of these stomach pump inhibitors to shut down our stomach acid because all of this stomach acid is bubbling up in our esophagus and giving us reflux. We now know that's totally wrong. Acid reflux is not from too much stomach acid. Acid reflux is from too little stomach acid. So let's think this through. The story has been that your stomach pumps are so overactive, they're pumping out all of this extra acid, and you need to take these pump inhibitors like Nexium or Prilosec. Well, we said earlier that 9 out of 10 patients have overactive stress response, so everybody's stressed out. But the body's response to stress is to shut down acid production. You don't make more acid when you're in fight or flight, you make less. So it's literally impossible for everyone to be stressed out and to have overactive stomach pumps. Your body's response to stress is to shut down digestion and to turn off your acid pumps. People have too little stomach acid, not too much. Now, another way of thinking about this is that your stomach acid naturally drops as we get older. So the older you are, the less stomach acid you have. So if acid reflux was caused by too much stomach acid, wouldn't teenagers get it and not older folks? Teenagers could eat a 3-day-old pizza and not get reflux, but they've got the most acid. Older folks can look at a tomato and get reflux. So since teens have a higher stomach acid, if it's from too much stomach acid, shouldn't teens get reflux? Guys, acid reflux is caused by too little stomach acid. The reflux that people feel is something called food rot, which means that your food sits undigested in your stomach and very quickly ferments. And it produces its own organic acids. So the undigested food and organic acids bubble up into the esophagus. That's the acid they feel. Food rot and organic acids. So if you've ever thrown something in the trash can in the summertime outside and you go back the next day and there's a pool of liquid under that food, that's organic acids. And you might say, well, okay, doc, well then why does the medication work? Because there's a second medication that stimulates your stomach to empty. So what they do is they just push that undigested, rotted food further into the intestines, out of the stomach, so you don't feel the reflux anymore. But now you have undigested food entering the small intestine. And remember I talked about the system in each step? So you end up with this undigested, rotted food going into your small intestine. But the bigger problem is that the pH of that food is not acidic enough because there was no stomach acid to break it down. So that bolus of food in your small intestine is not acidic enough, leading to another problem called SIBO, which stands for small intestine bacterial overgrowth. And that means that your bacteria from your large intestine has gotten through the valve and is now growing in your small intestine. You're not supposed to have a lot of bacteria in your small intestine because your food is not acidic enough and it's undigested and it's rotting. Now we have a situation where you have too many bacteria from your large intestine are growing in your small intestine. And those bacteria produce gas, and there's nowhere for that gas to escape from your small intestine. That's called SIBO. And these people have the worst pain and bloating after they eat because these SIBO bacteria are producing gas. Sometimes you could even see their stomach swelling after they eat. But remember when I said we have to evaluate the whole system? This is what I meant. This stuff is complicated. If the bolus of food isn't right from the start, if the stomach and small intestine isn't doing their job, the colon will never be able to do its job. And number 5, and the last one, and thanks for sticking with me, but the last one are stealth infections. That means that you don't know that you have it, but it is an infection. You're carrying around some kind of harmful pathogen. And these hidden infections inside the bowel, and many times they're very hard to detect, but these infectious bacteria have gotten really smart. They can go dormant, so you feel like you're in remission, and then in times of stress, they what we call bloom, and they come back. But make no mistake, they were never fully gone. They just went dormant. These stealth bacteria can hide away in little pockets of your digestive system, sometimes for years. But they can't hide from our new lab results. We can now track them down and wipe them out without killing the good bacteria. So that's it. That's the 5 most common things. It's not everything, but you get the point. It's the 5 most common things that we see. And I know that was a lot, and I know this is complicated. But the best way to deal with IBS is to figure out all of the combination of these issues and develop a strategy to resolve them in a very common sense mechanism. Remember what I said earlier. If I do 5 things and we just get 20% out of each one, we're 100% of the way there. Leveraging multiple angles all at once is the key to solving IBS for good. And I know right now you may be thinking, why didn't my doctor know any of this? Why didn't my doctor do any of this? Well, unfortunately, as I said earlier, most doctors are just simply stuck in an outdated system. Once new research comes out, once new literature comes out, according to their own American Medical Association data, it takes 17 to 25 years to implement new research into your general corner practitioner's office. Guys, 25 years ago, we barely had internet. Another reason that most doctors don't do any of this is because, like I said, they just don't have the time. And unfortunately, with the insurance-based care the way it is, with insurance companies cutting doctors' rates to bare bones minimum, most doctors simply join into that system, insurance-based system. They need high volume of patients. I got to get in, make a diagnosis, write a prescription, code it into the computer correctly to ever expect to get paid, and then go on to the next patient. They have to be fast and cheap to make it work. Now, being outside of that traditional insurance-based model allows me to implement new research quickly and effectively instead of it taking 25 years. It also allows me to sit down and truly do what each patient needs me to do for them to achieve their highest level of health. And I only work for them. I don't work for Blue Cross and I don't work for Medicare. I work for my patients and my patients only. And I will never let some insurance clerk sitting behind a computer somewhere rush me through what I need to do to solve my patient's health problems, especially someone that's been suffering with something like IBS. And that's why we have patients come from all over Louisiana and even some other states to come seek care with us here at Dr. Kevin's Wellness Clinic. I do what's necessary to solve problems, whatever that takes. So today, we covered some new science about why IBS occurs, because if you're ever going to get in the ballpark of resolving this, you have to know the reasons why it happened in the first place. And it's not because you're just unlucky. You didn't just draw the short straw at some point, so you have to suffer with IBS. We have to discover the reasons why and resolve them. We talked about what most doctors miss when evaluating IBS, and then we walked you through some new testing that we now have available that has revolutionized IBS and chronic disease treatment. And then lastly, I went over a few of the natural ways to resolve IBS without drugs or surgery. So what are the main takeaways that I want you to get out of this program? Number one is your symptoms are not what's wrong with you. They tell you something is wrong with you, but the symptoms themselves are not what's wrong with you. They're like your check engine light on your car. Number two is medication is temporary, and medicating all of the different symptoms of IBS is not a solution and can lead to surgery, and even can lead to removing part or all of your colon, which is a terrible thing. Very, very harsh solution. And then the third thing I want you to understand is this multi-pronged approach is the best way to address IBS in a permanent way. And if I do 5 things and we get 20% out of each one, you are 100% of the way there. Number 4 was resolving the energy crisis and solving energetic debt. And you must have the energy reserve to heal from any condition, and especially IBS. And so now you have a choice. Your first choice is more of the same. Go it alone. Continue to rely on an old, outdated system. Or your second choice is to join the hundreds of others that have returned to a normal life using my unique methods to solve IBS for good. You are a unique individual, so the method to solve your IBS should also be unique, that matches you. You need a care plan designed uniquely for you. I cannot continue to see our great folks here in Louisiana suffer digestive damage because of an old, outdated system. So I have a special offer for you today. And my purpose of this offer is to help as many people as possible finally get over their IBS for good. So I've freed up some time in my schedule for a limited number of phone consultations to discuss all of these details, but they are invite only. This will enable us to discuss how my methods can help you. And on this call, we can talk about all of the obstacles and roadblocks that you've ran into that may be preventing you from achieving a solution to your IBS. This will also allow us to come up with some solutions to these roadblocks that can allow you to move past them once and for all. And we can also discuss goals and expectations and outcomes. I'm very goal-oriented with my patients. Our ultimate goal is complete resolution of IBS, not management, not remission, but absolute resolution. And we do that by developing this roadmap that we discussed to the results with your IBS. Each patient has a different set of causes that have destroyed their digestive system. So each case is a little bit different. Your roadmap to results will be uniquely yours, but we have to discuss your individual case to determine what that might look like. And then the last thing I want to discuss, but definitely not least, is that we only accept patients that we think are a fit for our program. I only accept 5 new patients per week into my program based on, number one is we're pretty sure that we can help them, but that's a rare case. But number 2 is that they are truly ready to be dedicated to get results and follow all of my recommendations. The one way that we secure our great reputation of getting real results is we only accept patients that are willing to do what it takes. And at the conclusion of this phone call, we can discuss what your next step to treatment of your IBS would look like based on our program and if it's a good fit. This could be the most valuable 45-minute phone call of your life. And so what are the costs of this phone call? Well, it doesn't cost anything to our local Acadiana residents for a limited time. Why would I do that? Because I don't want any barriers to you getting the help that you deserve. I want to make sure that as many of our local folks as possible get real relief from their IBS and get their life back. That's my mission, to change the digestive health of South Louisiana using totally drug-free solutions, and we've got a ways to go. My vision is taking you from suffering to healthy, making sure you stay healthy. But before you decide to do a call with me, this is not for everyone. You must be open-minded to trying a different program to get a better result. You continuing to do the same thing and expecting a better result does not work. Only schedule a call with me if you're open-minded about alternative treatment options. And you must also be willing to take action now, no matter what it takes. You have to be ready to invest in your health and in your program. Be ready to invest time and resources into your health. You can't rely on your insurance or doctors or medication or an old outdated system to take care of this for you or to fund your pathway to health. That will never allow you to get better. I also am looking only for those individuals that are coachable and can be accountable and willing to work together. The best results I get are patients that follow the program to a T and are willing to do whatever it takes and are looking for an expert to help walk them through the steps it takes to resolve their IBS. So you must be coachable and accountable and work with me. I cannot drag my patients across the finish line kicking and screaming, resisting me. I can give you a plan and help you implement it, but I really need your help to make it work. And this is why my outcomes are not typical. My outcomes are outstanding because my plan is not your typical plan to patch up symptoms and kick the can down the road. If you want better than typical outcome, this program might be right for you. So if all of that sounds like it's for you, then you can book your call now. All you have to do is click the link below and set up a time we can discuss all of the details you have learned here today. And I want to close by saying thank you so much for listening. My passion is to help you and others like you get over your IBS for good. You may not have to live like this. You very likely can live a much better life free of IBS once and for all. Thank you again. I'm Dr. Kevin from Dr. Kevin's Wellness Clinic in Lafayette. Click the link below and we'll talk very soon. Thank you.